Truly said by Anna Quindler. Books are the plane and the train and the road. They are the destination and the journey. They are home. With this, good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and our eminent guest. I, Tanishka Jaiswal, extend a warm welcome to you all to today's event, Ek Mulakat with Puneet Sikka, an initiative session organized by Prabha Khaitan Foundation in association with Ehsaas Women of Varanasi and Benares Club. We are together for an occasion dedicated to the celebration of literature, the power of storytelling, and the enduring connection between creators and readers. This evening, we encourage you to engage with the author, to explore the theme that resonates with you, and celebrate the transformative power of literature. I now have the honor to invite Mrs. Bharti Madhok, event coordinator, to tell us about the foundation and about today's event. Over to you, ma'am.
Thank you so much. Good evening, everyone. There is a long write-up which is there in my hand, and it's all about Ehsaas Prabha Khaitan Foundation. And I am a member of that foundation. Unfortunately, I'm the only one here in Varanasi who is doing it right now. But this foundation, was established long back. I don't have the date here, but then the main purpose of this organization, the foundation aligns with the UNESCO vision, recognizing that cultural development can be a powerful alternative for sustainable growth, especially in rural and the third world communities. So that's the gist, or that's the main purpose of this organization. They promote literature, art, music, and they understand that literature is a reflection of what's happening in the society, and literature has a very, very important role in shaping the society also. So today we are going to have a tete and a discussion on a young writer, as well as she is into movies also. One of these girls, they'll read her profile, and I'm sure that discussion will be very meaningful. We are really looking forward to it. I thank all the Benares Club members who have spared their time. We are sorry for being late. Prabha Foundation programs are mainly, like most of the time, they're very, very punctual. It's all on time. But this is one incident I think Puneet will herself explain. She was stuck up somewhere. So we apologize for that. But I'm sure you will have a good session interacting with the author. A very warm welcome to you, Puneet, and all the members of the club. And thank you, Secretary of the club, Mr. Atul and Mr. Madhok, for your support. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Now allow me to introduce Ms. Puneet Sikka, ma'am. Ma'am is an author, actor, and a media professional, an alumni of Sri Ram College and Symbiosis Institute of Media and Communication. She is the author of the book Take Number 2020. Now I request Bharti ma'am to come forward and felicitate our eminent guest. I request ma'am to come forward to accept the token of love. Thank you, ma'am. Your presence means a lot to us. We also have Mrs. Mridula Malu. Ma'am is a chartered accountant and holds a degree in international financial reporting from United Kingdom, and an entrepreneur and a soft skill trainee. We welcome you, ma'am, and I request ma'am to come forward and accept a token of love. Thank you, ma'am. The time has arrived for the conversation between our author, Puneet ma'am, and the moderator, Mridula ma'am. Over to you, ma'am.
Thank you so much. I'm so grateful to all of you for waiting for me, and I'm also very, very, very sorry. Please accept my apology. The reason I got caught up was, I'm going to try and keep it as short, but I have been making a documentary film, which is an Indo-Japanese collaboration on the Kumbh. And me and my team, we have a 100-member crew. We're working with a 100-member crew. And we've been camping in the Kumbh and now Benares for the last 2 months. So I was at the Kumbh in January and most of Feb, and then for the last Shahi Snan, which was to culminate on Mahashivratri, we came to Benares. Now, during this process, we befriended a lot of ascetics and holy men, and Naga Babas to be specific. And one of the Naga Babas, who's very senior in the Akhada, he took me under his tutelage, yes. And I had had a few interactions with him, but just to give you a little sense of Naga Babas, they are volatile people and they are moody, and you don't want to get beyond a point, you don't want to get in their bad books. Now, sometimes it happens when the Shishya is looking for the Guru, you cannot question that when that happens. Now, I'd had a few conversations with him which were I'd been a bit, I'd sort of, overstepped or whatever. I'd asked questions because, I'm just a curious cat. And he'd been very gentle with me, but with all the boys. And I was, just to tell you, I was the only female in a crew of 100 men. So he was very gentle with me, but with everyone around me, he was, people wouldn't mess with him. Now, he came to Benares as well after we came here. And I've been interacting with him these past few days, but today he'd called me because he knew I'm leaving tomorrow. And I was there at 12 o'clock in the afternoon, at noon. And I thought I'd just meet him for a few minutes because, I had to give him some dakshina and something and leave. Since noon, he kept me and he made me, so basically there was me and there's another person who was also a Naga but not become initiated as a Naga but not become a Baba, basically because that needs years and years of sadhana. So that guy and I, Anirudh and I were doing everything for him as he was telling us to, and I kept going to him and I said, Babaji, I have to leave. And this was at noon, at 12:30, I told him, Babaji, I have to leave. I have to leave. I have to leave. And he kept deferring it. And he said, go get me those flowers. Go get me that. Go get me that. And I kept going to him. Finally, there were sort of strange experiences that happened, which my heart is still racing because of the way things happened, the way they panned out. I had a sort of run-in with some shady people also in the process. And by the time I went back to him, he said, no, we're just doing a puja. We're doing a small puja. We're doing a small puja and it's going to be over. By the time he began, and he didn't let me go. By the time he began, it was 6:45. And I was literally in my head, I was going nuts. I said, Babaji, you have to let me go. And he got really angry, he got furious. And you really, if you are familiar with any of this, you don't want to mess with them. So the Havan began, and while I was doing all the swaha, I was getting a little, angsty, and my phone was there, but I was just not able to. So the moment I could get out, I ran. And I don't think if I was running, I've not raced faster than this in my life. The moment I got out, luckily I'd asked somebody to arrange an auto for me so that I don't have to look for one. I rushed to the hotel, literally by the clock. I took 5 minutes to switch, to change, because I could not even have come like that. It would have been a disrespect even to the audience who's been waiting for me, because I was like smeared in muck. And all through the day, we were basically doing Babaji Seva. So in that, it was, so for those of you who know, you know. For those of you who don't know, we'll have a chat later.
But again, I'm very, very, very sorry. This was totally out of my control, and you can imagine I was there since noon. So this was something which was really something I couldn't help. And I had planned actually that I'll get out and I'll maybe go to the salon or something. But I had planned everything like that, but it was not, it just was not meant to happen. But thank you again for waiting for me. So yes, we can proceed.
So not a delay, but blessings of the divine. Yes, yes. So I'm so thrilled to be finally meeting you in person and talking about your book. And so you know that I'm an avid reader. I will not say that about myself, but I am. But since here we are to talk about Take Number 2020. This is Puneet Sikka's debut novel, and I read the book today. Yeah, I did. Yes, finished reading it. So this is the book, and if you would like to show it to everyone.
Yes, I'll hold it up for you. This is what the cover of the book looks like. Take number. So that's like a clapperboard, which is set number, shot number, take number. So that's the take number. And I will tell you something about the cover, but we'll come to your question.
So, yeah, the cover, that's intriguing. But, you're an actor, Puneet. You've acted. And as far as I've done my research, you've got a very fine interest in languages as well. And you've done theatre, a trained Bharatanatyam dancer. And so how, still, training, still, more than at least what we know. So what inspired you to write? I mean, not a very easy path, if you ask me.
Oh, absolutely. So I started my professional life as a writer, and my very first job was with the news channel, and I intended to do the production aspect of it, which is to be the show producer. You know those weekend shows you see on business news channels, you know, that art and automobiles and everything, that is what I intended to create. But I was absorbed by the news desk of a news channel. So I was writing the rundowns for the anchors to read on screen. And somehow or the other, one way or the other, I was finding myself in writing jobs. I started working with a fashion marketing house, and even there I was ghostwriting for the designers, for the fashion designers, for all their publications, you know, like this is couture, this is Pret, and this is their summer collection, this is their winter collection, and you know, that kind of verbiage. And then I was an advertising copywriter. So I was working in an advertising agency. So basically, whatever jobs I took up, I was essentially writing. And it was not a planned decision. It just happened one after another. So I was essentially writing most part of my life. And but I was also doing theatre on the side, because you know I couldn't sit still. I had to do, like, after work I'd go for theatre and rehearsals and everything. And then I moved to Bombay. So as part of moving to Bombay, and I'd done theatre about 8 years. So as a natural extension of theatre, I was auditioning, you know. So I would audition for whatever came my way. Commercials, TV commercials, digital commercials, web series, films, whatever. And in my experience, from what I experienced over there as an actor, I realized that, you know, I can write. So why don't I write a role for myself, you know, that I can act in? And that was coming from a pain point that I was underwhelmed with the characters that are written for females. You know, it was, and this is 2018. So it was not very exciting to read, even in the small scripts that they would give you, the snippets. You can tell, if you're a writer, you can tell how well the script must have been written, in the way they've written that part. And it was very underwhelming for me as an actor, as a female actor, to you know, sort of play those parts. Maybe one would, but one doesn't question it. But then it's not, writing is an empowering exercise. And I just felt that, what is stopping me from empowering myself? No, if I can write, if that is a skill that I have, then why not utilize it? And so I decided I'm going to write something, and I started actually writing the story outline for a web series. I had not intended to write a book. So it's usually in my life I keep saying Puneet proposes, God disposes. So, so whatever I set out to do, there is some or the other, direction that life throws my way, which kind of, some sort of challenge or some sort of, it redirects me, so to speak, And so I started writing it as a script. But when I started expanding it, and Meera, if you will read this book, you'll see there are 4 characters. One of them is Meera. And Meera was the first character I had designed in my head. And that is a character I had written for myself as a role, because I was writing a script for a series or a film. And when I started expanding each episode, it became a chapter. And that's how it became a book. So, it was literally in the process. मुझे लगा कि अब तो ये एपिसोड में बैक स्टोरीज डालना पड़ेगा, अब थोड़ा सा इसको फ्लैश एंड बोन्स देना पड़ेगा, so then that became into a chapter. So then I didn't stop myself, because once you write, Ernest Hemingway said, you write drunk and you edit sober. So I started writing drunk, basically. So write drunk and edit sober. And Ernest Hemingway, yes. And so I started expanding each episode, and it became a chapter, and each chapter then became a book. And that's the short version of how it became a book, but we'll come to more questions. And so this is how the journey of the book has been.
You're telling me you never trained to be in writing.
While writing the book, I trained. So I wrote the first draft, which I wrote. So all of 2020 I let happen, because life is fact is stranger than fiction, right? So all the bizarre news you were seeing on television or you were hearing about was bizarre. There was I live in Delhi, and there was this news in Delhi. पता नहीं आप लोगों ने सुना कि नहीं? There was a pride of lions that had come out. They was roaming in this area in Delhi called Dholakpur. And when you read news like that, you're thinking, even the animals are wondering, what the hell is going on? Why are there no people on the, what's happened? Are people dead? What is going on, So this is one of the bizarre news. And so when I was consuming that news, I just thought that why not I give these characters, put them in situations like that, I could not think pre-pandemic. So I decided that these characters that I have written, there are 4 characters, Meera, W, Jayesh and Nikki. I thought, why not give them the same challenges that we've all been facing in different ways? In every country had different challenges also. Overall, yes, there was one, but which is the lockdown, in which, people found themselves in confined spaces. But then also each country had its own issues. Like America ran out of toilet paper, so that was their challenge. Ours was different. So as per the geography, as per a whole lot of other things, we were challenged in different ways. And I'm sure city-wise also it would have been different. So anyway, that was what prompted me. So when I wrote the first draft, I wrote it after I had made scribbles in all of 2020. I started writing end of 2020. I wrote the first draft in 3 months. So it was like a cakewalk, and I thought people make such a fuss about writing a book, I've written it in 3 months, no big deal. But it is only when I started the second draft, that's when my mentor came. You must have read it in the acknowledgements, Vinita Zucchi. She's a very old friend, and she taught me whatever there is to learn in writing a book, a novel. And that मुझे दिन में तारे दिखे वो लिखने के लिए, that is when I realized why people call book writing such an arduous task. Because if you can manage to write a book and complete it, then you should give yourself a pat on the back. So she taught me that process of how to tell a story. She said, you have a story. She read my first draft and she said, you have a story, but you don't have storytelling. And that was a punch to my gut. So then I had to learn from scratch. So every chapter I had to write drafts and more drafts and more drafts, and 2 years later I managed to finish the book.
2 years, oh my. So coming to the book, I found it very interesting. The title and the cover, and if you would like to hold it, and tell us why this title and why this cover.
Okay, the title came to me much after. The working title of the book was Be Strugglers, which then I used in the book. But when I finished writing the book, it just made sense to me to keep a very simple title, which is self-explanatory. Right. Which is self-explanatory. So take number means, scene number, shot number, like I told you. So that represents the Bollywood industry, the clapperboard that you know. And 2020 is of course the year. So that is the simplistic way, Bollywood and Pandemic. The other one is of course a little more symbolic of, the number of takes that it takes for any newcomer to make it even in mainstream, So that's just a big number. So it's like, imagine if you have to do 2020 takes to get to that point. That is about the title. About the cover, when you get a chance, can I zoom in? So this is actually an oil on canvas painting, and it's about 3 feet by 4 feet.
I saw that in one of your Instagram posts. Yes. It's on your wall.
Yes, it's
very interesting.
Yeah. So the story behind this is it's actually an oil painting, and when I wrote the first draft of my book, I was part of the EC, the elected committee of my college, LSR, Lady Shri Ram College, and I was looking especially after the social media page. So you know how it is, it's like a LinkedIn for alumni, they keep posting and sharing their own work. So there's this artist called Valerie Puri, who's 3 decades my senior, so she's a senior artist, and whenever she used to post it, my job was basically, anybody's posting, I have to approve or disapprove, like how you will, before you let anyone's post show on the feed. And each time she would share her painting, my eyes would pop out, because her art connected with me. And the thing I believe with art is that either you connect to it or you don't. You can't convince yourself to like some art that you don't. And so approve, So when I'd written the first draft, there's one Sunday I was sitting in daydreaming. I kept telling my friends, this is my creative baby, this is my creative baby. So how when a mother is about to have a baby, she starts planning the outfits of the babies beforehand. So I was thinking of how the cover of my book will look. So that was one of my daydreams. I'd gone into fantasy land. And one thought led to the other, and I realized that, wait a second, let me talk to Valerie. So because of the alumni network, it was easy to get her contact, and I phoned her. And I was expecting she would say no. I was dead sure she would say no. इतनी senior artist है, और मैं, so junior to her. I don't know what she'll say and everything, but मैं सोचा ठीक है, try करते हैं, The answer to any question not asked is always no. So you might as well ask, make a fool of yourself, but ask. So I decided I'll make a fool of myself. So मैंने उनको phone किया, and मैंने कहा, Valerie, I'm from the batch of 2004, and I'm going out on a limb, and I'm asking you, I have written a book. Would you consider making the cover, making a painting that could become the cover? उस टाइम पे कुछ नहीं पता था कि बुक लिखी मैं खत्म भी करूँगी कि नहीं करूँगी, उसको पब्लिशर मिलेगा भी कि नहीं मिलेगा, क्या होगा, you never know, especially when it's your first book. And she was so warm. And it's surprising. I mean, I wish I could make you hear how she sounded on the phone. She said, Puneet, that's lovely. I would love to do it. I've never done the cover of a book before in my life. I would love to do it. I said, great, wonderful. I had to pitch myself. I said, kuch aur maang liya hota, is time pe. So then she said, okay, just send me the synopsis of your book. And on the basis of that, I'll make something. So I had the synopsis. I sent it to her. She took almost a year, because once she made pencil sketches, and she kept sharing that on WhatsApp. She lives in Hyderabad, so she would keep sharing the pencil sketches and then fill it with color. And every stage of the painting, she kept me updated. And the painting took about 8 months to dry, because it's a massive painting, and it's oil painting. If you're familiar, it takes time to dry, and she cannot ship that to me till it's properly dried. So then she'll roll it and put it in. So she said, I'm worried. It'll take 8 months to dry. What if you need the painting before that for the cover? I said, don't worry, अभी बहुत time है, अभी पहला draft लिखा, अभी तो मैं लिख रही हूँ. I didn't tell her, मैं इतने ये बोलते रुक गई. I didn't tell her. I said, अभी खत्म होगा कि नहीं वो मुझे नहीं पता.
You just made an investment. This is what you did.
I had a call. I had an intuitive hit, and I thought, let me just call her. Let's see what happens. most likely she'll say no. So I was not even expecting her to say yes. And she said yes. So maybe that was another thing that now तो मुझे book खत्म करनी पड़ेगी because उसका cover बन रहा है. So yes, you know, it's got
Very bold colors. Yes. Very bold colors, and one thing that really strikes me are the eyes. The eyes are so beautiful, and the only person who's hiding the eyes is the casting director. So, okay, I will not spoil it.
You've read the book, so that's why you're saying that.
I will not spoil it for everyone. But it's a very slice of life book. It deals with consequences, choices. You've always got a choice in life as to what you want to do. And so, what would you say the reader would take away from it? I mean, tell us a little bit about it. I mean, the characters, what consequences, what ramifications, what emotions? Is it black, grey, white? What is it? Because human emotion, as I feel it, is always grey. So, what would you say?
Yes, these characters are complex characters. They are taken from life and a lot from mine also. And when I say it's taken from my life, they are like instances which I've experienced. You know, when you talk about something that you've experienced in your life, doesn't necessarily mean that you have lived that experience. It means that you've probably been in close contact with people who've gone through certain experiences and they've shared those with you. And that kind of feeds into your own narrative, into your own storytelling. So I have shamelessly taken from life. That is what has happened. And life, like you said, is grey. There is no black and white. And very complex. No, complex is not the word, complicated. We make it complicated. Life is complex, we make it complicated. So actually, getting that for these characters, and there were 4 different characters. So to think from each character's point of view was a task for me, was my biggest challenge. And to stay true to that. Now, just to give you an example. I cannot give you spoilers because now you've read the book, so you will know that this book is full of surprises. It's full of surprises. All right. When we were talking, I sent you a passage which was in the initial part of the book, which is not a giveaway. But second part of the book तो मैं आपको बता ही नहीं सकती क्योंकि उसमें spoilers इतने हैं. आपको उस point तक आना पड़ेगा in order to enjoy it. So if I tell you now, then it will spoil your reading experience. But what I can tell you is that when I was writing each character, they were getting made as I was writing them. And at some point, the character started writing me. So what happened was that this was a cathartic experience for me. Okay, now Meera, she is having this straightforward life. This much I can tell you that she lands herself in the lead role in one of the main roles in a A-lister film, you know. And she is, you know, who will not be over the moon, you know, a newcomer who gets them. उनको पहली पिक्चर जो मिल जाए बड़ी एकदम A-list एक्टर के साथ में तो फिर that's a big deal, right? क्योंकि आपको visibility मिलती है और एक्टर के लिए और क्या ज़रूरी है, right? But then there are instances that happen, right? अब W है, W आया छोटे शहर से, वो आया बेताया एक विलेज है बिहार में, वहाँ से आया है. The thing is, Bollywood, as you will know, is a great level playing field. Like it's anybody can come in. Anybody can participate, anybody can dare to dream for the stars. ऐसा कुछ स्टोर में नहीं लिखा. क्या होता है और वो nepotism और ये और वो अलग चीज़ें हैं. किसको चांस मिलता है, किसको नहीं मिलता, that's another topic. But if you have the desire to go and become an actor, you can go audition. At least nobody is going to stop you. Okay, and then like how we saw the case of in real life, we see the example of Nawazuddin Siddiqui. You know, he came from a humble background, and then he worked his way up. It took him longer than it would take somebody, a star kid probably, but you know, that is an example that if you want to, you can. It might just take you longer and take you more persistence. So W is that sort of an example. Then there is Jayesh, who comes from a wealthy family, you know, and then stud boy, like I call him the stud boy, you know, gym में जाता है. वो लोग वो category के लोग भी होते हैं ना जो gym जाते हैं, muscle बनाते हैं, you know, like hot boy, hot girl looks, you know, जिनका basic aim होता है कि भाई कैमरा के सामने दिखेंगे, so then we have to look our best, you know, so we'll spend all our money कि जितना कमाया उसको जाके हम, you know, we'll spend on the gym, we'll spend on I mean, I'm not saying that this one way is right or one way is wrong. I'm just saying that they're different characters, they're different categories of people, and everybody plays to their strength. ठीक है? और फिर चौथे हैं हमारे मिकी तनेजा, जो कि एक टॉप नॉच कास्टिंग डायरेक्टर है. अब when one is in Bollywood, when one is auditioning, so more than celebrity actors, what a newcomer actor is looking for is a casting director, because those are the people who hold a lot of power. You know, if a casting director likes you, then they will keep, then they will take you under their wing. They will keep calling you. They'll tell you ye audition aa raha hai, ye audition aa raha hai. They'll push you. But then for that you have to connect with them, you have to network with them, you have to always be in their know, and all of that. So, and especially if it's a big shot casting director, then even more, because then they work only with big production houses, right? So ये तो लगा ही रहता है. And वहाँ पे एक बॉम्बे में एक जगह है आराम नगर करके, the area is called आराम नगर, and आराम नगर is a small space, बहुत छोटी सी जगह है. ठीक है, वहाँ कैफेज हैं, क्योंकि यंगस्टर्स आते हैं तो उन सब के लिए कुछ है, लेकिन इट्स अ स्मॉल एरिया, अनपेव्ड रोड्स, डस्टी रोड. वहाँ पे तो सड़क भी उन्होंने नहीं बनाई ठीक से, और वहाँ पे स्ट्रॉ हट्स के वो प्रोडक्शन हाउसेज और कास्टिंग ऑफिसेज बने हुए हैं. लिटरली इट्स लाइक मेक शिफ्ट, इट्स नॉट इवन प्रॉपर पक्का बिल्डिंग्स. So, and you can imagine hundreds and thousands of people come from all parts of India and they go and collect in that little pin code. छोटी सी जगह में जाके रोज कोई ना कोई किसी ऑडिशन, कहीं पर कुछ ऑडिशन हो रहा है, कहीं पर कुछ हो रहा है. So it's a melting pot. It's like a small space where आपको बहुत सारी कहानियाँ मिल जाती हैं. बस आप खड़े रहो वहाँ पे पूरा दिन and you can just keep एक जगह टपरी पे जाके चाय पीते रहो और आप देखते रहो, just observe करते रहो, और आपको बहुत सारी स्टोरीज मिल जाती है, because हैं ही इतने सारे लोग, और कितने लोग आते हैं. They don't know the language. They may or may not look in what I've said in the book in one person's words. They may not even look like that. Like as an example, I'll give you. ये discrimination है, बहुत ज़्यादा है. तो casting studios में usually क्या होता है कि आप वहाँ जाते हैं, तो हिंदी फिल्म इंडस्ट्री में they expect you to have an upmarket English accent to be considered, for a big production house. है कुछ ये ऐसे discrimination चीज़ें, ऐसी वाली चीज़ें होती हैं, और you should look a certain way. ऐसा कुछ होता है, undertones हैं उसके चीज़ के. And then a lot of casting people, उन लोगों में internally एक ना वो एक joke सा है या कुछ है कि कोई आया तो उसको ऊपर से नीचे assess करके they'll say this one is a dharma girl, or this one is a dharma boy. Dharma as in Dharma Productions, Karan Johar ki. So, because Dharma Productions makes all these fancy films, right? Like they're all these opulent, over-the-top films where the actor and actresses look like, they look a certain way. So there is this thing, and a casting lady told me, she said, this is very normal. In casting offices, it's very normal. You're a Dharma girl, you're a Dharma boy, this one's not a Dharma girl, this one's not a Dharma boy. And that kind of discrimination is unfortunate, but it exists. This is how life is. So all of this is there. So there is actually no black and white, because everyone is navigating and everybody has a reason for why they are the way they are. Now that is about actors. Let's come back to these actors being human beings, and their life and their childhood or their growing up or their relationships or their life outside of acting influencing their decisions as professionals, which is true for all of us. We could be of any profession. We could be a teacher, doctor, engineer, artist, whatever. But then there is a life on a mind outside of that, outside the game face that we put on. And that affects our choices in life. And so this book is essentially about how those life choices impact whatever they're doing. I mean, how those experiences and that baggage and that background of theirs impacts their life choices as actors and as individuals. And in that you throw the mix of the pandemic. मतलब एक ही चीज़ मुश्किल से हो रहा है, which is living, because life is not a cakewalk anyway, right? Like we'll all agree. जीवन संघर्ष है basically, and ऊपर से आप pandemic में डाल दीजिए in the mix, तो you can imagine how that is going to be. So yes, the inspiration for the characters happened as I went along. मेरे दिमाग में बस ये आइडिया था कि मुझे ये 4 कैरेक्टर चाहिए. पहले तो मीरा थी, फिर डब्लू आए, तो ये दोनों के बीच में कॉन्वर्सेशन चल रहा था मेरे दिमाग में, that ये दोनों होंगे. But then I realized I want 2 more people. And that's how Jayesh and Miki came up. And then their characters and their lives started sort of, they were all strangers to each other, but how their lives connect is something that you will have to find out when you read. And yes, that is the greyness of everything which I have been able to hopefully communicate.
So I'll resonate with you. I'm from Mumbai. I shifted here for marriage, and you already know it. So I still, my parents stay at Lokhandwala, and the back roads of Lokhandwala, Oshivara and Filmale Studio, and I've always seen it, but it's never really interested me. I mean, I don't know if it's a Bombay thing or I don't know what it is, but our relatives used to come and it's like, shooting dekhni hai. And we are sitting there and the same step is being repeated for at least 100 times. Different angles, different shots. It never really interested me. But then when I read this book, I was like, kuch to hai. The underbelly is very dark. So yeah, but then as you're saying, the different stories. So yeah, Ehsaas Studio, ठीक बाहर इतने चाय की टपरियाँ हैं, इतना खाने डोसा and egg stalls, and yeah, the different kinds of people. And if you keep observing, I think your day कहाँ गया पता नहीं चला. So anyway, so you said you won't give us too many spoilers, and I've read the book, and you can't really. But then there is this one relationship I want to explore. So your character Meera is very attached and influenced by her patti. She's at patti. So that's her paternal grandmother. So yeah, dadi. So since that's her only family, she's got nobody else. So do you share such a warm, wonderful relationship with someone? And where did this idea come from?
This is really funny, but this is not connected, but you said dadi, so I'm going to tell you. I've always, since I was very little, I used to tell my mother that I chose you, because and then as I was growing up, she's like, if she's right about something, she said, मैं तुम्हारी माँ हूँ, मैं तुम्हारी माँ हूँ. And then when I'm right about something, I say, आप मेरी माँ होगी, पर मैं आपकी दादी हूँ. This is just a joke, but somehow I did not grow up with grandparents, and I think I was projecting that onto Meera. That how must it be? I come from a family, my father was in the Indian Navy, so he was mostly sailing, and my mother raised me and my brother. And so, being in a nuclear family, and then that too, one parent is mostly away. So growing up like that, I felt that as I was growing up, I used to see some of my friends share a very close bond with their grandparents, especially grandmother. And I always used to yearn for that. And so, even in Delhi, I used to think that I used to go to my grandparents' house for the summer vacations, but I still did not have that sort of a bonding. That maybe I was just sort of looking at my friends and feeling it's a grass is greener on the other side sort of a thing. But I always felt this notion of dadi thing, that when there is somebody who has done their duties of being the parent, as grandparents, they have the time and the wisdom to share, and share it in a way which is not time bound. That 5 बज गए अब दूध पियो, अब 6 बज गए अब थप्पड़ खाओ मुझसे. I don't know, but it's like homework करो, ये करो. Dadis and dadajis and nanis and nanajis, they have that patience. They have that. They will enjoy you. And उसमें से out of one parent who was traveling, the other parent was overwhelmed. So she was, and she's raised, and I have only love for her because she's been a very tough person, and very tough in the right way, and a very strong person. And to watch that, and to sort of to think maybe none of us would be able to imagine the younger lot, that how did she do it without a nanny, how did she do it without help? But that gives you a different level of strength. But then I think that, and that happened in later life also, that I used to see my friends with the dadi. So when I wrote Meera's character, I just felt that I want her, because what all Meera faces and goes through, they had to be a wise crone, so to speak. A crone as in an old wise woman, who had to guide her. There had to be that one guiding force, because Meera has had a tough life as far as her parentage is concerned, and she did not get that nurturing, and she still has issues because she still has baggage from that. But the grandmother was able to dispense her that wisdom in her toughest time in the most non-condescending way, non-judgmental way. कि तुमने ऐसा किया तुम ऐसी हो, तुमने वैसा किया तुम वैसी हो. Sometimes parents, because they are overwhelmed with the parenting duty, तो वो थोड़ा सा aggressive हो जाते हैं speech में, थोड़ा सा violent हो जाते हैं speech में. They sometimes say things which then becomes an issue, that हम लड़ाई झगड़ा करते हैं अपने parents के साथ कि बहसबाजी हो जाती है, या आपने ऐसा क्यों बोला, आपने वैसा क्यों बोला. दादा दादी थोड़े chill रहते हैं उस हिसाब से. So I thought that this is how I wanted Meera's relationship with her Pati to be. Pati is Dadi in Tamil. So
I'll actually say yes. The reason I asked you this is because my daughter, she's been raised by her dadi. I've been there, but I've seen the difference. I've seen the difference, and I'm thankful for a joint family. Very thankful. And my mother-in-law has raised her, and so I could work. And so I've been provided those opportunities, and I would like to take the stage to thank her. She's given me that. So so since I've read the book, I'll again ask something. So this is something that I actually thought was true. So wanting to prove ourselves has nothing to do with the passage of time. It's human nature. So this is a line from the book. It's human nature, right? So why is validation so important? How would you describe this based on gender? Do women do this more than men? Do men do this more than women? What is it?
I think there are almost equal men than, or maybe more women, but I want to actually pose this question to the audience, if I may. One man and one woman, maybe more, but if you can tell me that, what in your experience do you think it is? Do women need validation more, or do men need validation more? Is it, or third option, is it even a gender thing? Anybody, if you just want to, there's no right and wrong to it, but
just the basic nature of a woman to emphasize on her gender. But men, they are mostly very non-challenged about their gender issues.
Women have this thing in them. It's basically in their nature.
yes.
So that is one issue, that is one point. But, over the period of time, like the society per se has changed, so you don't get to see this difference anymore. I mean, it's no biases, men and women are equal.
Yes, of course. So any man would like to answer that? Not me.
I have to hold the fort because this is now a species which is fast getting endangered. And Mrs. Madhok commanding, and then Monica is speaking. But validation is required by everybody.
Yes.
And it's not gender specific at all. Validation comes when you are a little hesitant and it also sometimes comes when you are not hesitant, but you still want to ask people close to you, people you love, that am I right? Is this the right place? Even if you know very well, even if after taking validation also, sometimes you do your own things. But still, to validate is just to connect. So connecting is not gender specific. It can be any man, any woman. Having said that, women in the last many decades used validation as a weapon.
Yes.
The reason was that because everybody, when the woman asked her husband, क्या ये ठीक है कि आज हम लोग कुंभ में स्नान करने जाएं, and the husband says, हाँ बिल्कुल जाओ, husband is doing something else, don't bother. उसने ऐसे ही कह दिया कि चले जाओ, and the woman says, हाँ इसने कह दिया अब तो मुझे जाना ही जाना है. So all that validation is not specific. Thank you.
Okay, no, absolutely. So I have to agree with you in the sense that validation, there's needs and there is wants, and a basic human need, regardless of gender, like you said, is validation. And why should we not want to feel validated by our people, by our environment. Why not? There is nothing wrong in this. We shouldn't feel ashamed, even in needing recognition or admiration. But when anything in excess is bad. So when it goes to a point, when it exceeds the point where it becomes self-obsession, it becomes, or comes, it damages relationships, or it sort of, you intrude in somebody else, or you impose yourself on somebody else for the sake of validation, then that's a problem. So, but I also read, just yesterday, I saw this very interesting clip, which was men and women, the slight difference between men and women, which is both right, because that's the way we are wired. So man and woman are equal in the sense of the opportunities that they can get, but they are not equal. The way they are designed, they are not equal, and that is not. That's just the way they are. They're just wired different. They're different. They're different. That's the beauty of it. They're two sides of the same coin. But yes, for the same labor, they should get equal pay and all equal opportunities. Yes, absolutely. But intrinsically, a man and a woman are different, which is why there is a duality, and therefore they can come together and form. There is the yin and the yang. That's how the way of the law of nature is. So. I saw this very interesting post that said, women need validation, a woman needs validation, a man needs admiration. A woman needs, a man needs respect, a woman needs love. And so sometimes, many things like that. And which is just, it's not different. That does not mean a woman doesn't need respect. It just means a woman is Devi, no? She's anyway worthy of respect. The thing is that, many times they say that, don't try and understand a woman, because you can't. You just love her, just for who she is, because women are the most complex. And again, I have to specify the difference between complex and complicated. Complicated is a labyrinth. Complex is a maze. Complex is what nature is, what Prakriti is, because it's designed in a way, it's layered. Everything has a meaning, but you're not going to understand it in the first go. It's not simplistic. It is simple, but not simplistic. So women are complex. Complications are different, which we create as human beings. So, you don't try and understand a woman, because she has so many layers to her thought process. The feminine landscape and the feminine psyche is so deep, and it's so connected to the soul, which is why they say that every woman has Devi in her. Now, even coming from a lot of spiritual talks that I've had with people in the last 2 months, they've said that this is what seers have said to me, that a woman, no matter how bad, no matter how much of a sinner, no matter what, the lowest of the low, she will also have out of, X number of, there is a certain number of Devi Devtas or Pranis or some different sort of energies that we all have in our energy bodies, basically. That a woman is still Devi. She is still Devi because she has still that connection to soul. She's still capable. She is the creator. No matter what, she is still the creator. She still has, whether she becomes a mother biologically or she does not become a mother, she still has that ability. So she is anyway above the male. And there was another thing that it's a little, I'm going off the...
You're answering my next question, actually.
Okay, so let me finish this thought and we'll come to that. She is a Devi no matter what. And because she holds the power to give birth, she holds that ability to give birth, whether she chooses to or she doesn't choose to. So I think that the validation part is obviously, it's going to be natural. They are emotional beings, of course, so there will have to be a validation. And
I was just about to ask you, there was an Instagram post that you made, and it says, to the women who are aggressive, keep being assertive. To the women who are bossy, keep on leading. To the women who are difficult, keep telling the truth. To the women who are too much, keep taking up space. To the women who are awkward, keep asking hard questions. So I was just about to ask you, being a woman is a privilege, that's what I feel, it's a celebration. But the struggle can be too much sometimes, and I've seen that in your book. So how do we keep that calm? How do we make it count? I think you've answered it partly. But I would still ask you, how do we keep a calm? It's very difficult sometimes.
I think then how we keep our calm then doesn't become a woman thing. Then it becomes a human thing. Then it just is that how do you ground yourself? How do you seek your solace? How do you... Because I think a woman's mind cannot switch off, especially after she becomes a mother, right? I mean, I'm not a mother, but I can still understand that aspect of it because I think it's already embedded in my DNA somewhere. There are certain memories that we have that even if we've not experienced it already, it's there. Our ancestors have sort of gifted us with some knowledge, with some wisdom, which is hard to explain on a material plane to somebody that I know this. There's an inner knowing about something. There's an intuition. I mean, there are some men in the audience, and please excuse my brazenness, but when women have their menstruation monthly, that is actually a time when she is most connected with the divine. Now, how that is and why that is, that everybody will have their answer. But when a woman is bearing a child, and especially after she bears a child, now this is what I was coming to. My guru told me, he said that when a woman is unmarried, her guru is her mother. When a woman gets married, her guru is her husband. And we're not going into the current modern gender understanding of it. When a woman bears a child after she's become a mother, she is her husband's guru. Then that switches, because she has experienced something which only she has experienced, and she has enough and more. She's an oracle. And then for the man to be dismissive of her, he is digging his own grave. And I mean it in the sense that, that's why they say that, they say Ghar ki Lakshmi, right? Whether a daughter is born or whether a woman comes to a household and she's married. So there are a lot of things that, even if you go back in our ancient scriptures, they've always said Devi, right? Because even the biggest of the saints and all, they will be Devi Bhakt first. They'll say first it's Ma. Ma is everything, and then everything else follows. So point is that how does a woman console? She already has that wisdom inside her, because it will for each woman vary. How she grounds herself. What I understand is, because women are born creators in that sense, the more creative energy they can explore, that helps to sort of unwind from the day. Whether you want to create as art, whether you want to create as cooking, or you want to create as something else, whether you want to write, whether you want to sing, whether you want to dance. I feel even having done theatre, I've noticed this, that when we used to go for rehearsals, the first thing we would do is not act. We would go on the stage, on the rehearsal space, not on stage, on the rehearsal space, and start moving our bodies. Because our emotions are stored in different parts of our bodies. So the moment we start stretching and we start moving, we do movement dance, or we just just even if we just on soft music, we just move our bodies, we're actually releasing those emotions that are lodged in our bodies. When people, I was told, there was a time I used to sprain my ankle very easily, very, very easily. I used to keep spraining my ankle. Sometimes I would be just standing and just twist my ankle. And I was baffled, it'd be like, kya ho raha hai? And then somebody pointed out to me, she said that, are you very angry? And do you repress your anger? And I said, yeah, sometimes. So basically, sometimes the anger that I was repressing, the anger sometimes gets repressed in the ankles. And when it needs release, then it will go and injure itself, so that you can give it more care, so that you can walk gently, you can take care of it. Because when you hurt a place, when you wound something, when you get a sort of either an injury or some sort of internal issue, then you have to give more rest and more care and more TLC to that part of the body. Which means that is what is needed. That is an emotion which has been lodged in that part of the body, which either needs release or which needs attention. And so essentially women, because we carry the emotional labor of so many things, जैसे बैठे हैं बोले तुमने क्या काम किया, but सोचा फिक्र किया और उसको एग्जीक्यूट किया so that सबकी बाकियों की लाइफ सरल रहे, you know, like, you know, for the kids, for the husband, for the family, for the parents, for the siblings, for everybody, for the pets, for whosoever is in their environment. They care, they are naturally caregivers, no matter how removed they are from that aspect of themselves. So they tend to take other people's energies without realizing it. So I think just grounding exercises or movement exercises or channelizing that energy into some creative form or the other in a way could be something that, or just getting together with your friends or with people you trust and just talking to them so that nothing is left inside you.
But nothing better than retail therapy, is it?
To each their own.
So I'm done with my questions. It was wonderful talking to you. I would like to now, I would now open the floor for discussion and questions from the audience.
Good evening, ma'am. So, ma'am, how do you stay connected with your readers and maintain a relationship with your audience?
How do I stay connected with my readers? First of all, because I'm a reader myself, I understand that if a book talks to me in very advanced level language, even if I understand it, the book has lost me. You know, so in trying to impress the reader that look at my language skills, मुझे इतने words आते हैं, मेरी vocabulary में इतने words हैं. So when we try to impress our reader like that, we've already lost the reader, because then we don't want to read. Then we are just complicated. Then it's like, बोलना क्या चाह रहे हो यार? 2 lines में तो मुझे 5 बारी dictionary उठाना पड़ रहा है. So why I can't imagine reading like 300 pages with having to make that kind of an effort. So one way of staying connected with my readers is what I understood while writing is that keep it simple. Say, have the thought and express it clearly and lucidly, but also keep the suspense. Because if I will in trying to be simple with my writing, I don't want the reader to become bored. So that was for me, I'll only say personally from my experience with the book, that I wanted to keep the reader on the edge of their seat. So if you will read it, you have simple language to read it in, and you will enjoy it. You know, then you want to know, okay, let's read some more, and that was my aim with this book. That's one way I stay connected. The other thing is that this book is written very visually. So my aim was to show and not tell. So it was basically that show and not tell means if you're reading the book, you want to be able to see what is happening, not be told what is happening. You know, just a very, very basic example would be that, okay, I have to make something up right now. But can I read it out? Can I read out a small bit from the... Yes. So just a very, very small example, but you know, Meera has a boyfriend, his name is Raghu, and very soon you will see who Raghu is, but the dark side of Raghu. But when she meets him, she's in love with him, you know, there's nothing else. There is Raghu and he is the only truth in her life. And so I wanted to say that, you know, he feels like home, but how I wanted to describe it is, what about him feels like home? Because if I can describe that for you, for the reader, then you will also understand, then you will also think in your life that, oh, this feels like home. Why does this person feel like home? So one of the lines from that is, she's thinking, this is Meera's point of view, everything about him feels so familiar, just like home. The smell of his perfume, the grip of his embrace, the questions in his eyes. Now she's come from a little bit of a toxic household. So this is, if you can read between the lines, the questions in his eyes, you know, like, you know, we've grown up in a household where, you know, people are questioning you at all times, or they're like, you know, or they're being violent with you, then at some point you have that Stockholm syndrome. So, you know, you see, subconsciously you pick partners who are also toxic like that. So, you know, like, the grip of his embrace, the questions in his eyes. But that is probably her idea of home, you know. So, thank you. So, I mean, the idea for me was to also show and not tell. So those are the two things. Keep the language simple and also make it a visual read for the reader so they can enjoy and they can visualize what they're reading.
Thank you, ma'am.
Good evening, ma'am. Ma'am, what role do you believe literature plays in shaping society and influencing change?
Literature is everything. I mean, what we know about, especially history, about the times gone by. If you will just read the classics, like if you read Emily Bronte, you read Jane Austen, you read any of the classics, you read Shakespeare, you will get, if I'm saying going back in time, not even like modern classics, I'm going back in time. What era that they lived in, what was the dressing style, what was the food they ate, what was the environment they lived in. You go to Indian texts, you read about that, and you see that how people lived, how they functioned, how they commuted, how they lived, the kind of houses they lived in. So all that is the surface of it, you know. But then, what were the norms of that time? If you read Saadat Hasan Manto, his time was, you know, around the partition time, and around that time when India Pakistan was, you know, there was so much going on even at that time. So वो कैसे रहते थे, कैसे 1940s is so different from now. So you know, and then the generations, the 90s, the 1990s are so different. So literature basically helps us connect with the time that has gone by, but it keeps it relevant for us at any point we're reading it. That is the beauty of literature, because then you're reading it and then you're invested in the character as much. It doesn't matter then कि वो क्या कपड़े पहने थे या क्या खाना खाया था या कैसे सोच थी या क्या, because then you're reading. And the other thing about literature is that you, unlike in films, you invest. As a reader, you invest in the character because you are spending that energy to read. Sometimes what happens with films is, and I'm saying this even though I'm an actor and I'm making films, sometimes what happens with films is, it's that film is doing the work for your brain. In reading, you are meeting the reader halfway. The writer halfway. The writer has written it, but for the writer to be read, you need a reader. And that is energy. So literature plays a very, very important role, and somebody who can and even with this, to give an example, pandemic आया वो चला गया. अगर 50 साल के बाद में, if my book is around, if somebody has even one copy, and there are multiple books. I'm just saying that through books, through literature, through stories, we understand, right? That that must have happened. What was COVID like? You know, what was the lockdown like? What happened to people at that time? Suddenly, people had to go in the overnight and buy ration for their houses, and they had to do things like that. How wild, you know, how crazy. ये भी करना पड़ता था. ये तो war time में होता था. ये ऐसे होता था. So you know, those things are sort of documented, but in storytelling. So that is the beauty of literature. It cushions the blow for you. You don't have to read a non-fiction book for that. So.
Okay, so would you be doing a book on your experience at Mahakumbh and Nagababa?
Yeah, maybe. I mean, this has been a very intense 2 months for me, and I mean, I have to still process. In fact, essentially what happened today also in the last 2 days. So there was a sort of diksha that he had given. So I could not get up and leave. So he was giving me diksha of a certain kind, and that is a big deal. So and I'm a little ignorant, you know. I'm like the oh wow, this happens. Oh wow, that happens. Thankfully, I had my brother from another mother who's a Naga himself, Anirudh, who was guiding me through the process, and he's from Kerala, and this other Naga Baba, he's from Haryana. So if the language is really different, and this man, he's 60 plus or something, and he's foul-mouthed. So and this guy, he's very young, he's 30 something, and he's from Kerala. So he doesn't understand Hindi. So and this guy only speaks Hindi, and I'm the one who's translating everything between all of them. But yeah, these are stories, and there is a lot of stories I've taken from here. Maybe, who knows?
Ma'am, the day would go on, it would come in the morning, but since we have to wrap up soon, I now request Ma'am, Mrs. Bharti Madhok, to please come forward and present a vote of thanks.
Thank you so much, Mridula, especially for holding the session so beautifully. Thanks so much, Puneet, for being with us. And now can I request some of the members please come here and let's give her a token of love and affection from the club members side. Mr. Madhok and please, Dr. Monica, club members please come. Mr. Joshi, come. Yeah. I'll request Mr. Singh, why don't you come, please? Maluji, after please.
I'm not well dressed also.
आप आइए ना, आइए भैया.
Being such a patient audience, I have a lot to say all the time.
I know.
So I'm leaving tomorrow. One question which is not in the book, can I just?
Yes, I agree.
Yeah.
Have you finished?
Yeah, I have to say thanks, and I'm thanking everyone for being so patient because everyone had to wait. And thank you so much. I know you must have been also on your, wits end how to run from there. But anyway, the session went off well. And thanks to Prabha Foundation as well as all of you.
Thank you.
Your point रह गया आपका.
So, my point is that staying in with 100 Nagas, sadhus and 50 men,
100 crew members.
100 crew members, but they must be maybe hundreds of Nagas also. Absolutely, we haven't that. So, how did you feel? Did you feel intimidated with them by them? And their habits, and they obviously they must be having bhang, and they must be having and there is no timetable. There is this Nagas mean eccentricity. This is the impression which we get. How did you feel?
Fortunately, I was large. I think I have this feeling that I'm divinely protected first of all, and that I went with an intention. And also because I think being female, they do not, during the snans, just let me give you an example, there are 6 snans. So during the snan, when my crew went right in the thick of all the activities, the snan, there is a crowd, there's like massive people, you've all seen the news. The Nagas have chimtas and they have all those things that they hold. So they were like, so a lot of my crew members came back beaten up, because the Nagas would use the chimtas for them to get aside. And I've seen that. That's happened. So first day तो हम बहुत डरे हुए थे, हम सब डरे हुए थे कि मुझे चिमटा नहीं खाना है, मुझे जाके recording करना है, but मुझे चिमटा नहीं खाना है. So yes, they can be intimidating, but I think it's also that they don't. That's a how should I put it? It's hard to explain, but they don't mean ill for you. And it's not the most straightforward way of saying that, they don't mean ill for you. They are there so that they can do the uddhar of the society, so that they can give the seekers what they have done, that tapasya, so that you don't have to go down that treacherous a path or arduous a path, so that they can, if they blessed you, they can take on your bad karma and relieve you and release that of you. Not entirely, but yes, they do have that understanding that because they're able to time travel first of all in the mind, and they're also, which means that they can go into lifetimes and understand what connection they have, and they can take that for a true seeker. So that is why they're here. Why Kumbh happens is they are there for the seekers, for the pilgrims who come, who are looking for that mukti, right? In this lifetime or another, sooner than later. So they're there for that. So, but they are like that as a front. That's a front they put up. ताकि जो आलतू फालतू के लोग हैं ना, they don't come close. That is basically to, because दुनिया में कलयुग है ना, so there are all kinds of people in this world. There are people who will come and waste your time also, and who will come and take you off your path also. They are able to see that because they are able to see the intentions of people, which is largely not good. That's why they are a projection of that society. So when they are volatile and moody and aggressive, They're basically projecting, mirroring what society is. But they are actually not. They are not fearsome people otherwise. So when I understood that, I feared less, to be honest. But yes, we are still always a little wary around them because, if we don't know things. There are certain laws of the spiritual world we don't know. And some of them don't have patience.
Ignited mind. Inquisitive ignited mind.
Inquisitive ignited mind.
Seeking. Nala.
You mean me? Oh yes. The first thing I said was I'm a curious cat. I just hope curiosity does not kill me. But yes, I'm here because I'm curious.
So wonderful. Thank you so much.
Can we have a group picture with the club members?
Can we have a secretary of the Benares Club, Shri Atul Singh, Major Ehsaas Singh? निर्मल जी एक ग्रुप पिक्चर हो जाए सबके साथ.
The club members will. Can I request all of you to come, please? And thank you, Mr. Atul, for giving us this wonderful point for this event.
Thank you, हम कहेंगे कि